Right. All is good. All is good. All is good. Yep. Yep. That's the one I was gonna potentially mess around with in the future. Maximum zombies with a combination of this, maybe some wandering horde stuff to kind of make it a bit more more of a daytime threat, I suppose. Potentially flirting with the idea of either like a horde every night type of thing, or absolutely insane like difficulty settings, 3-hour days, potentially like horde nights off, and then just have like wandering hordes up to the absolute wazoo. Screamers maxed out, so you see those like all the time. That's like the main threat versus like the nice sexy base. Lots of potential ideas that I'm trying to roll around in my head with, see what I can do. Let's see, sold. I believe it's whole day. 9 o'clock. Oh, that's not too bad. Let's do a little checkerino. How are you doing? You're doing alright. To be honest, that's not the quickest of things. Solar cell. I can only buy those. I'll take that. Steel, yeah. Oh, battery. Okay. I've always got plenty of those. 4 minutes. 4 minutes. Alright. Get more than one of those in the game. Oh. Yeah, let's do a little peruse, because I don't know how effective that thing is. It's supposed to do these like little things, so I don't have to spend like forever doing that, but it does take quite a long time by design, because otherwise it would be a bit overpowered if it was just like constantly repairing. And I think if it gets damaged, it like automatically goes off, so you can't just like have a block constantly being repaired and attacked at the same time, because that would be silly. And I would remove that straight away, because that removes the whole bloody challenge. Oh, I've not coloured this. This is like my main piece. Like this does its job, but this is like kind of the main element really. That and these blocks. These don't really do shit, but that'll do for now. Yeah, like these, that's designed to like let like filter the small things through and keep the big things trapped, and that's there so I can shoot them, and to also stop all the fat fuckers from shooting me the moment they come up. It kind of navigates them, and because I typically stand like on those two sides anyway, or I might be there shooting through, it stops them from getting a direct line of sight, so it kind of limits that. Well, that took a beat in that side, Jesus. So that's like a very important piece. And obviously this is pretty decent. They don't really group up a lot can really do a great deal of damage. Like if I ignored them for the whole night, then yeah, they probably would. And if we let some of those demons get close, it probably would be a bad time. They don't typically attack the floor. What was that? Ooh. I am concerned about the roof part, but I've already considered upgrades or improvements, changes, whatever. Oh. Let's double check some of this. Okay, so you should be done now. Yeah, alright. Ooh. Because a lot of this base, like with exception to this section, pretty much all of this was thrown together on a whim. I knew I wanted the layout to be like fighting room, kind of power room. The fact that these are here are just sort of experimental, see what how they worked and whatnot. So I just kind of threw that together, and this room was just a big square room, and just hope everything sort of fits and lay it out. You know, the four corner setup. I will potentially make some changes of that in the future. You know, this isn't how I would typically have it. If I was gonna like spend a bit of time and do it, I've just not bothered. Same with this. Like I kind of hate how this is, because this is like the fighting zone. That's a bit too close. So that wouldn't be where I would have things. And this entire roof bit was just sort of originally for the farming, and then just sort of left open, potential helipad, and then obviously this came. That's completely shoddy. You know, it's a shit job. That all needs basically ripping out and redoing. Because the cars don't fit through there anyway. That's not the right size. Yeah, it was just sort of thrown together as a template test. Really, this was what I was, you know, brainstorming. And that ended up working out to my delight. This doesn't really, because originally I had the idea of like RPG and when they fall down there, because I had, like in the testing version when I was originally building this out, I had the idea of having some like blade traps down there so that when they fall they get blades. But then I did like a trial horde night, and you know, when things fall off and they blow up down there, it was just creating too much. Like they were pretty much destroyed all the time, and more of a cost of expense to replace them. And it was damaging the floor more because of more explosions and them getting caught down there. And it just wasn't worth the hassle. And to be fair, even these are not really worth the hassle. They're good for some of the larger things when they get stuck, but demons seem to just run straight through these like they don't exist, which is kind of annoying. And I could flirt with the idea of extending that, but I think that's a good amount. You know, it works. But I could make it like a little bit longer, but yeah, it's not a priority really. But I think if I was to build this again, I would do it in a sort of more full out polished layout, because the idea was testing like kind of the fighting platform. I go to sleep and I have freaking dreams of building, and oh, that could work, this could work. All the architecture stuff is what I like, finding out new ways of doing things whilst making it look pretty. And this, I like elements, but it's not really
complete. It's kind of a rough
rough edge. Like all of that sort of, that there was like an experiment. And I'm very happy with that. That turned out to be quite nice. What is... So I wouldn't mind spending a little bit of time sort of looking at upgrades, or like changing the layout a little bit, you know, making it a bit prettier. So I might spend a bit of time, because this is basically the last Horde night, so I'm not going to do it now. But provided we survive this at some point, and then I might do like the revamp before I do like basically the rerun, and give it like the ultimate test, you know, put the settings up, you know, kind of go hell on earth, drink that drink thing, and just sort of like throw hell at me and see, because if it survives that, then I know my idea is bulletproof. I was dreaming about my friggin' underground base idea, and I can't seem to let it go. Like I seem to really like it quite a lot. Logically, it doesn't really make sense, because I'm holding on to how I used to do it, but how I used to do it was sort of efficient to non-Darkness Souls. And there's been so many changes, and you know, the fall damage is no longer a thing. Their pathing is not a problem. The flow rate is a problem. So there's so many issues. It's like it's not really a viable way. But I just don't like giving up of like trying to make it work. Maybe other people are like that, I don't know. I don't like to quit. Because I've had so many, like, I break it down into like differences in a base. Like you've got your fighting platform, which pretty much no matter how you design a base, you've always kind of got this in some variation, whether you're up, down, bunkered, you know, there's always some element of this. So there's the fighting platform, which needs to be secure. Then you have to worry about, you know, the constant onslaught, so you're looking at the amount of flow that's coming in to not overwhelm you, and the hole in the base style, if they path correctly, you kind of get overwhelmed quite quickly, which was part of the plan, because originally it was a big hole in the wall, you know, blade traps as they fall all the way in, which doesn't really do much damage, to be fair. It's a lot of work for next to nothing. And then they kind of fall in the pit, and then I'm meant to be like above the pit, like this, and then rocket them down, throw grenades in. That was the original plan. And then I had like a melee option where, if, you know, if early game I didn't have much ammunition, I could just sort of ignore that, and I could go down, and they would fall into another blade pit, and then ladders going up to another blade pit area, and just kind of letting the base kind of do a lot of the work. But the main issue with that is the pathing, which is another element. So yes, you've got like your fighting platform, and then you've got the amount that's coming in, which is what this is for, which is to help with flow, and the staircase helps with flow, and then pathing also, you know, that's part of that, which is why it's as robust as it is, to kind of help with the pathing. And certain height stops them going rage mode and beating up on the base, and just all those elements. Like when you consider all those four things, it doesn't really leave a great deal of base building options when you understand those principles, and everything else is just like for looks, really. Like all you need is this, Everything else is like, now for that, like over there by that tree, it wouldn't really make any difference. But I'm kind of stuck on the idea of trying to adapt some of these other elements. But this came about because my underground base was not working, and I was like, okay, let me flirt with various like styles, because it's like, well, it's kind of obvious you either go down, you live on land like a turtle, or you go up. There isn't really like I tried an under the sea thing. I tried a massive like 50 by 50 castle, and the issue with like a massive moat that was like pretty much went all the way down. It was like 7-8 wide with a drawbridge going down to Little Island and another drawbridge, and all underneath it was like all moated out with water, so they wouldn't try to go down there. And a massive castle with like Great Wall of China going around it, full forest, housing, garages, helipad, so a massive sort of place. And then I had issues for Horde Night because I made sort of like a standalone, like I had my way in, I had two like secret ways in, and then I had like the sort of fully built in bridge with like a security gate bridge, and then kind of roofed off big tunnel with like a free fighting platform. And they just kept coming in waves, but due to the size of the base, they ended up spawning behind me in the base. So building something that large was problematic. And I had another crazy idea that I tried twice. And it was sort of like an inverted, I had two variations. I had an inverted like pyramid, where it was like 50 by 50 again, because I seem to love these big grand designs. Because if you're going to do a pyramid, it can't just be like a little stupid thing. Like, it was a big thing, and then it went all the way down, originally in just ramp formation, but then I tried doing it in the wedge bits. I don't know if it was the wedge. It was the one that had 4 bits. It was like a 4-part one. I forget which one, but it would be here somewhere. Yeah, these wedge narrows, like all 4 of those. So for every 1 block down, it would be 4 long, which made the thing stupidly big, like ridiculously big, which appealed to the grand nature. And that was hours of work, because I didn't like admin tool or anything, even though I'm experimenting at this time, like doing a cheeky playthrough. I wasn't like cheat moding anything in, but I was digging it all out and whatnot. I was just going to build it in concrete, because that's usually what I practice with, because the differences in sort of the structural side. Oh, that's here. Let's put some of that in there. A little bit of that. A little bit of that. Yeah. So I made like I planned it out so I would have a 10 by 10 on the bottom, and then I made like a pillars on each corners that was 2 by 2 thick, and then pillars in the middle that I think was like a 5 dice, which went all the way to the surface level, which I think was like 35 high, something like that. It wasn't a very high map. I think I did it on the Super City. I think it was 35. And basically it was like a tower, and I was gonna do like the Japanese sort of that famous tower thing, where it's like a house and house and house and house sort of style, pagoda, something like that, which is a conflicting thing, because I've got like a pyramid, so I've got like Egyptian and then like Japanese or Chinese or whatever it is, sort of styles, and then I had the idea to have that tower and then the pyramid going down, and I was going to fill
bottom of the pyramid up as like a water, like kind of a moat, and I had then from the tower along the bridge going at all four corners, so I would have 4 backup positions, like the security gate bridge design again, with like gates at the end, kind of walled off slightly, with sensory gates so I could drive in. I had a drawbridge on one of them which went underneath, like when I came into the tower there was like an underground section that I turned into like a garage, and then I could go up to the top to the base. I had the fighting platform on all 4 sides. Then I had like 2 or 3 levels up, and I just went up and up and up and up and up. And the idea originally was just kind of that long thing, but I ran into the same problem of spawning. They were spawning out too far or too close in. They sometimes would jump over the walls and end up in the water. Then they just, because zombies just, water doesn't exist, so they were at the bottom beating on the pillars. So it was a structural issue. So I was like, okay, I'll fix this problem. I will continue the pyramid, because originally the idea started out I want to make a big pyramid, and I started digging down. I'm like, well, because like probably the year before that I actually did build like a pyramid going up, and it didn't work. But then the idea is, oh, I'll fix this. I've already got like an underground pyramid with a tower. I will then connect the going up tower to the pyramid, so it'll be like from down up like a full sort of diamond. I'm like, oh, this would be perfect. It'll stop them getting in. It won't be able to get through the walls. Obviously, due to the sheer like length and height of it, structurally it was a bit awkward to build. So there was quite a lot of supporting pillars every 5 or 6 to get it going. And I built it, and then I connected the tower, and I kind of prettied it up a little bit. And then I ran into the issue where they would get to the walls, like the outer door would ignore the door, would bulk up to the wall, and then would get on the pyramid, which I designed from the outside as well, because obviously it's slanted. Got up on the slant, ran up to the roof, beat their way down, and landed either in the base or just on the bridge, and bypassed all of that. And it was absolutely annoying. Which was a similar issue to what I had in the previous one, where I just kind of built a big pyramid, and then like, you know, quarter way up I had like a fighting platform, and then I kind of like lived inside the pyramid in different sections, and they would constantly kind of run up the side and bypass, and I had like loads of little things, and they took out a couple of pillars, and I think it got flooded with water at one point, and they tried to do like an underground car park, and none of it worked. It was structurally very difficult to build. It was quite a challenge, and then ultimately the design did not work. But I liked the sort of like, wow, sort of look to it. Like it did look good, but it just did not work. So I kind of scrapped all of those, and my underground base had worked for so many variations. It's like, I'm not going to give up on this. You know, I want to, like, every time there's been an issue, I've changed the blocks. You know, I've made it look different. Like, it's a similar principle of the whole. I've made the whole look different. You know, I've added different electrical opponents, different sizes, you know, different elements, different pathing problems. But there was always the issue of volume. You know, the amount of flow that was coming in. That was the main issue. Like, and pathing at certain points was an issue, because they would ignore the top bit and they would just come down the side, and it just ruin everything. And I don't know a way around the pathing, because they keep changing blocks and how they behave and the digging down thing, and it seems a little bit unpredictable. So I'd have to spend a lot of time kind of figuring out the pathing bit, and then even if by miracle that they did exactly what I wanted them to do, I've still got the issue of flow, because yeah, now they're all in there, but now they're all in there, and oh shit, okay. And it's going to be a constant trickle, which is good for like a grenade shoot, because I've had like a big hole, me hovering above, and then come get me, psych, you know, just leave them in there and just watch them, grenade them, whatever. Like, just loads of little cheesy things that you can do. It's like, I don't really want to do that. I want to fight them. So like, even under good circumstances, that sort of underground base, there's elements to it I like, which was like the modular aspect. I could sort of build the fighting platform, and then I had underground, so I could just carve out a wall and build something. I was like, oh, okay, well I can take that modular design, and I took parts of my sort of fighting design, some of the blade traps, and I kind of built like a turtle style bunker, and I had like a big bunker in the middle. I had like pretty much minefields of like the spikes, the wire spikes things, like just loads of those. I had a couple of blade traps around. I had like turret towers shooting around, and they would just come in, spotlights. It looked like part of World War II. They were just running in, but they can just run through those so quick, and then they're fighting on all four sides of the bunker, and you just get overwhelmed by sheer numbers, and that didn't work. But that was like early game when I tried to do that, because you take history notes of like how people deal with like masses, which is why castles were a thing, because an infinite number of people you build up rather than, you know, bunkers and whatnot. So I was like, okay, I'll take that modular underground aspect that I really like, and I did build up like early, but I built like a diamond sort of pattern with like 5 pillars, and the idea was like it was a bard on the thing, and it was like 8 up or whatever, and then in the middle I carved out a smaller diamond and then dug that in, had a fire or 2 at the bottom because I was working on the full damage and then the fire damage when they got to the bottom. So they tried to get me, they'd fall on the diamond, I could see them because it was lit up, because I think this was before electricity. And then I'd shoot down, throw grenades down, you know, pipe bombs or whatever it was. And I had like a little vault bunker entrance I could go down, and I could fight them down there. But while I was I built that, and then I built a crafting area, then I built like a little housing area, then I wanted to build like a little farming balcony with an outdoor pool and a couple of trees. And I built too much because I didn't really know about structural integrity then, and then I placed one block and it was, oh yeah, it's all looking good, and then I stepped on that block and then it crumbled on, oh shit, and then the whole thing just completely collapsed. Everything fell down the hole, and I had 5 pillars left, and then I basically quit the game for a couple of months. I couldn't load back in. Everything in the loot boxes just fell out, and it was all gone. And that was on vanilla. Like probably in the first 1,000 hours that I was playing or whatnot. Like it was early days. The first like proper base I built, other than like living in a shitty little cabin that I tried to fortify, thinking I'd be safe. So ever since then, going up was like, no, we don't go up. And I tried everything else, and the first bit of success was the underground hole, because I built it in Navasgain in the farming area, right in the cornfield, and it worked out well. And I made various variations of it, because the idea was sort of like the Resident Evil hive kind of design. That was original plan, not quite to scale or like the sheer amount of depth that building is. You know, that's a lot. But I took the idea and like sort of like honeycombed it, and then made like a bulletproof glassing on the middle, so I could be on the top layer or look all the way down to the fighting platform. And I made various things, and it's always the same as the fighting platform. There's like the crafting area and sort of like the 4 corners of living quarters. Then there's like another layer for sort of like access to get in and out of the building, because for ages I was basically dropping in, like pole vaulting out and coming in, and then eventually I would build like a car garage U-turn thing, and then I'd come back out. And various variations of that style. I think I made 3 or 4 styles of that underground base. It always looked a bit different, you know, how I made the modulars. But when I was liking the modular thing, I was coming up with, because I wanted to work more with the electricity, and because I've used those before, and I had like a little tunnel, because I did try something else. I've tried so many things, but I tried to live like just 4 blocks down where the dirt was, and then I went like 4 blocks down again, and the idea was I wanted to just live just underneath the surface, and then I built bars on the top, a couple of layers, so that they would come down just this tiny little singular corridor, 1 by 2 high, and then I'd have been on a long corridor, and then I could essentially live underground, but with like a completely clear roof, so I could get the light in for the plants. And I had like trees going off, and it was cool because I could just be underneath the surface, and I could see zombies just running past. But that was before they gave them the digging mechanic, which obviously put a big stop to that. They were just like beating on the glass once that update came in, and I was like, okay, that don't work. But the idea of like the singular tube, I eventually adapted that to like putting the electricity in. I did the dart traps. I did like a different type of these where the loot bags would fall through into like a little pit, and then I had one where they would kind of like the squares. I forget what one it was. It was like a type of these, but like off to the side, and then they would kind of run in and then kind of fall down, because I think I would do one kind of like something like that. Can't quite remember. But the idea was they would see it as a path, they'd run in, and sometimes they would fall, which would affect the flow, and then they'd run into like this little room, and I had like blade traps in there. I had some dart traps, and it would just sort of get rid of them, and it would build up the loot bags, and it'd be like nice little win at the end. And I took that principle. So of all these little bases and things that I've done over the, I don't know, 2, 3, 4,000 hours of this game or whatever it is, it's been a lot. I've took elements of what kind of works, and there hasn't been a great deal of updates. Like the 1.0 update is when I basically went, oh yeah, I'll come back and have a look, because I did alpha, I think 13, 14, 15, 16 was good, and then it was a bit after that. And then I think Alpha 21 was the last proper one I played. And then I heard 1.0 came out. I was like, oh, let's give it a check. I think that was like a whole year went by, and I was like, yeah, let's see what they've done. And I think I discovered Darkness Falls around A21, A20, something like that. And I've never gone back to vanilla since. Like, this is a much better way to play. Just yeah. Hands down. I wouldn't even play this game if it was just vanilla. Like, I long ago give up. There's no challenge in it whatsoever. It's just shit. But yeah, with all those like base designs, I've took elements. I've learned how to use electricity a bit better, and what's kind of useful. I only use these because they're titanium. The normal ones are kind of crap. They burn out and stop being very useful. So the adaptation of all of those bases sort of kind of culminated in this, with a lot of brainstorming, because I didn't like the ladder thing, because I had that in, I had like a Two Towers Lord of the Rings kind of style thing going on, and they were kind of going up ladders on like a 2x2, I think 4 high, and you were coming up and then going in a single path. But it just didn't seem reliable. And stairs and ramps always seemed to be the most reliable, but one big ramp wasn't reliable. One sort of like a triple-sided pyramid ramp, that wasn't very reliable, and it didn't look as good. So I was like, yeah, this like double staircase thing, like I did contemplate having that and that, like more, because when it's too high they have an issue. So when it's like 2 lower levels, they seem to have no issues doing that. I could technically make that, and originally that was just like 1 and 2 and 1 and 2, and then I fully expanded that, and I could expand it all the way around, but it's like that's a bit overkill at that point. Though it does kind of look a bit like a spaceship when I do that, which is kind of cool. And there's other games as well that I've played of different base designs for different purposes, and I take little elements from them all, but the modular design was basically from the underground base. I was like, oh, I'm going to make this. If I do it up, that solves the pathing, because I figured that out. It solved the flow, by using this, because I've used so many different variations. The little skippy jumps, the poles, the double ones. You know, so many variations. But these seem to be the most efficient. And then with the modular, I can just sort of build up one. It takes longer than it obviously being underground, because I could just, you know, chop it out. And I like the underground. I thought, oh, I need stone for concrete to build what I want to need. Oh, that's good, because I'm surrounded by stone. I'll just knock out a, you know, 13 by 13 room, get all the stone from that, use the stone from that to make the concrete I need to make the room. So it worked out perfectly, where here I kind of have to do separate digging and then kind of produce these stupid crazy towers. And to be fair, a lot of like taller bases kind of look ugly as shit to me. And you can flirt with, I don't know how many different kind of designs and styles, and I'm sure there are people out there that are like recreating the Mona Lisa or something. Like, there's going to be some people that are like dedicated to, you know, recreating stuff, you know. I heard there's someone that recreated, I think, the mansion of The Walking Dead. It's like, there's going to be people out there that will make these really cool looking in-depth buildings. Like, that ain't me. I like it to be functional and somewhat pretty, but I feel like, despite the fact there's what 2100 shapes, I feel like I'm using 30 shapes at most of the time. Like, I'm not really using as much. And I've got the ones I like. I like security gates. I like those ladders. I like those spikes. That was a new trial. I kind of like. I don't like square, too much square. I really like the staircases. You can put those upside down and make different things. Obviously, I'm a sort of my favorite color is black. So like black and silver kind of works quite nice. But I want them to do, like, I'm hoping in this update or whatever, or if there's a mod at any point, because this paintbrush thing is such a serious lack of options. Like, look at this, like barely 2 pages. So like, this new stuff that came in was a godsend. Like, thankfully, there really isn't much in here. Like, some shitty woods. You know, the black granite was alright. You know, there really isn't much. You know, these concrete colors, I don't do these. I'm a sort of a grey, black, white kind of guy. I don't mind the sort of stone. I remember that from back in the day. I used to kind of like that. The trims look horrible. That's probably the nicer stone. That's okay. I've had that as floor loads. I've played around. I've had that underground as like a nice sort of old English sort of underground tunnel system. I had that all in the farms. I didn't mind that. But there really is a limit. Like, this is alright as well if you combine that with, like, you know, the brighter colors. It does look like doo-doo. I used it to make, like, the top part of my underground base. I made it look like an anus in the desert. With obviously the brown. And I was like, yeah. Shit base. That was fun times. I want them to give me more color options. There's probably mods for like dyes and or whatnot, but yeah, that's one of the things. I'm always flirting with differences on pillars and how to style that. That's all gonna change. You know, I don't mind the way this looks. You know, you kind of got to do what you can color-wise to make it look pretty. And I try not to use too much square or too much generic stuff. Like, I like that because it's quite smooth. I'm not a massive fan of the bumpy bit, but it kind of reminds me of the anusy sort of skin texture. I do like this because it's an unusual shape. How that works out, I do like that. I'm not a fan of the 2 ways, and the 3 ways just remind me of literal Legos. But I've just got a mixed bag. and I've tried not to look at it too much because I usually try to be like OCD and everything's uniform. So like 5x5s, 7x7s, 9x9s, I've always got like an odd. I have a hard time anytime I try to build anything that's even, because it just bugs me. I always get to a point where there's not a middle, and I'm just annoyed. So I try to always work off of odds, and it tends to work for me. So if I've got like a 9x9, I'll use the 5x5 in the middle to support it, because I'm pretty sure I can support up to like 8 blocks, but I try to always leave a bit of a gap. So that is the middle of that room, and that's just supporting that whole bit because it's the fighting platform. And then that's supposed to be the middle of there, but there's an extension or something like this. It's not the right gap between. So all of that bugs the shit out of me. And then I'm not a massive fan of that. This one turned out reasonable. I can get away with that. And that trick works nice. So there's elements to it that I like, but I kind of want to polish it up and make it look a bit better. And if I was to literally rebuild this again in a different format, like, I would be a bit more anal about the sizes and the placement for support. There's overkill on support. I could just make like a giant wall all the way around. I quite like the open sort of. I don't like it too blocked off, but I want it to be supported and kind of like even spaces. It looks more appealing. But like even that, like, yeah, one corner and not a corner, that bugs me. Like there's so many little elements that kind of annoy the shit out of me. This all worked out quite nice. Like the staircase, I've used these a couple of times. These are lovely bits. You know, the backing bit's nice. This was just there for extra, and the zombies get past them anyway. This is mostly support for that bit. I only need the one, but the zombies kind of get caught here for some reason. Probably getting caught on that bit and then this bit, so it kind of traps them, and then I can use that as a shoot down, which is alright. I don't mind that. It's an accidental byproduct. And the main secret to the stability is all of these, because that's all supported, and then that's supported off of that, and this whole base is technically supported off of this. These pillars ain't even really needed. Once you go, you know, up and over, that's pretty much at the limits of where you can go based on that without these, and those basically reinforce them from basically, if I put a couple like extra blocks on the top, it was gonna fall. And yeah, I had to kind of increase the support and just making sure. I'm not a fan of like I don't really need these, because I can technically support that from that way in a weird floaty connection way, but I find that a little bit cheesy. It's why I've committed to all of the pillars, so that it kind of looks more reasonable. But the two types bug me again. And even though they don't, like, this space is all nice and open, which is nice, then they can have a free roam, which I like. You know, it all works part of the plan. But all of the like interiors all need a revamp. Like none of it's really correct. Like all of this whole fighting stuff is all like, I normally have a roof anyway, kind of like that, because I like a bit of natural light in. But I've doubled it up for the flyers, because of like vultures and the crazy anime girl thing, and her mother, it spits and she's crazy. So those two seem to be doing the job. It doesn't make me comfortable. Sometimes I get hit by either something in there, or I get hit by something. I can't quite figure out why. So I would probably change this, because this was just thrown in. Like, I made that was the limits. I threw that on to protect from birds and to protect my lights, really. That's all that is. and just basically to be pretty if I'm ever near, you know, make it look like a bird cage kind of. And I threw those on there to kind of help with the birds, so it's all kind of like just added in. And then these I just threw in to see if they work for the anime girls. So I can improve all of this however I want. You know, I can make this a couple of different ways. I've got an idea in my mind that I want to keep similar to the shape, because I quite like the overall kind of singular shape and different levels. So I know I can do something with this, and these turret towers I kind of want to make more of a thing, because they're a bit too close. I'm worried they might get destroyed, which that's a good point actually. Double check that. Yeah. Yeah, we're gonna get you sorted out. Yeah, so I'm concerned about that. All of this is just wrong. This is purely just here because, you know, just thrown together. Same with all of that stuff in there really. And then this is just a complete mess. So there's a lot of revamping that I could do to kind of make this a bit nicer, but that's what I like about my modular sort of style. I could go overkill, because I have a couple of modules that I have done for Underground that I've kind of like designed the way my OCD likes me to have things, you know, certain amount of spaces, a little bit of decor, you know, like how I do things in here, you know, I like little things like that for organization and that sort of shit. You know, I probably could use like 2 or 3 of those and be done. But I quite like the individual, even though I have this and I could just throw literally the entire kitchen sink at it. I don't like doing that too much. Like even now, I can still keep stuff in places because I don't want to be in here scrolling for 7 years. So yeah, there's that. Like there's an element of that. What I want to do to kind of revamp, and I like to make things to purpose efficiently without making something stupidly too big or too small or too cramped. Like there's a nice medium ground between, you know, like my normal module for my crafting room doesn't look anything like this, but I normally build it underground, so it's usually like on a couple of levels. I kind of have like a, like as you come to it, there's a visual element as you're going in, and that's kind of how I imagined it, and then I built it around that idea in my mind, and it looked great. I did kind of build it underground with more of a pipe aesthetic, and I kind of made the forges look a different way because I think I had the advanced forge when I built it, and I kind of made like chimneys and stuff for those. It kind of looked pretty cool. And I had like my battery room, which was for the underground tower thing. I had to build that in a way to make it work for the tower. I wouldn't have to do that, but the room itself is fine. My farming one was very nice. Like it was very nice. I really want to make that again. However, it's with these being a thing, it's completely redundant in the amount of size because I made it very grand. But it did look great. But I was using the farm plots. Technically, I could still do the main, because it's like, once again, it was one of those rooms where you kind of go down some stairs and you just see this big grand room, and yeah, there was like a central sort of sexy piece to it. I had water in there. I want to make it again, but I want to kind of update it so that I can kind of have early game the use of the farm plots, because early game I'm going to need those. You know, you don't start with those. And then once I get to these, transition over, but I don't need as many of these. Like there's a lot of like of these things I don't need. Like I need these 2, I need that one, I need that one, so I need those 4 minimum. I need the tomatoes, so that's 5. I don't care about yucca, I don't care about mushrooms. Those are really early game for those. Once I get to first aid bandages, I don't care. Cannabis and the super corn I think only for certain recipes. I'm sure there was something in here that I needed. Yeah, there's that, but who cares? Maybe I'm just imagining and glue that I don't care about. Yeah. Super corn, who cares? Cannabis, who cares? I'm not doing the wheat and all that stuff. Goldenrod, yeah, I can get my dew collector to get that stuff free, because that's the only reason I picked those up. I picked that and the chrysanthemum because I want to make the drinks early game. I prefer the red over the yellow, but you know, I'll take either. Blueberries are for the generic schematics, but I can also use, I think, 6 of those and 6 of those early game to get ink, and ink is kind of what I need, so I kind of spam out as much tomatoes as I can. Coffee I don't use pretty much at all, and pumpkin is my late game sort of food. Same with oranges, that's my late game sort of drink. Even though I'm very happy with red tea pretty much like forever. And an apple is easy to get, and it makes my animal feed. So I really only need like 4, 5, 6, 7 at a push. 4, 5, 6, 7, and those I'm pretty sure will go in there, so I need 3. So yeah, I only need 7 and I have 8 here already, so it doesn't take up a lot of space to make those. Obviously I could make like a whole friggin', you know, Breaking Bad style room of all of this shit, but then I got more now than I need, and like I go away for a couple of days, come back, I got 100 friggin' potatoes. You know, that's enough. So I don't need to make it too crazy, but I want to make it the right size for that grand image, so that when you go into the room, it's just like, yeah, that's a nice room. But and I had like, I don't know if those are still here. I had like these in the corners, lighting up the room to kind of make it like an underground mushroom sort of farming sort of setup, and it helped with the lights for the farm plots. It was kind of cool, but I can make it look a bit more modern with these, because that's half the aesthetic anyway, so I could do something with that. But I want to make that module again. I did have a garage module, but that was sort of like a work in progress, and it was more of like just a load of car parking spaces with like a turning radius area, so that when I can come in, I can kind of come round and sort of park it in and then leave whatever vehicle I choose that day, you know, similar, but a bit bigger. I think it was more like a 13 style, because you need quite a bit of space to turn some of the vehicles. Sort of like a circular part when you come in. I had a fuel station because I quite like that pump, but you can't get it. Like, it's a creative menu item. You know, like the gas pump that you get at stations. I spawned one of them in just to put my fuel in. But I think you can get those like barrels as well, like the 4 barrels or something like that, just for organization. I made sort of like one of them, like little repair sort of station. I haven't actually, I tell a lie, I've only ever had one helipad module, and that was a hold on, that was a very different, that was a base in a big mountain, like an underground military, like in a mountain tunnel. Like, it was a 5x4, so I could drive the Jeep in sort of like a Metal Gear Solid style, you know, at the end when they're doing the little drive and you fight Liquid at the end, sort of like that sort of tunnel. And then it pretty much came to a point, and it was like 2 helipads, and then you go in and you just fly out. But I had to dig it all out, and the blades were, it's very awkward to fly up in a straight line without having it touch the entire thing. So I made it just big enough to get in, but it was a ball ache. And then I made a basic like helipad, like a Command and Conquer style, sort of like just a circular thing with like a little bit of a railing and a little walkie path, you know, the basic helipad. And I always have 2, because this one and that little, is it the MD 500 or something? It's the other the other one? Huh, I don't know. Yeah, there's a like a little bird essentially, but it's kind of shit compared to this one. And that's pretty much all the modules, because fighting platform, your crafting sort of, you know, pull table, a couple of weight benches, whatever, you know, vending machine, and then all the other areas. And then once I get greedy, I tend to build like a, so I don't have to go to get water. But with the inclusion of things like this, I don't even have to worry about it anymore, because I used to build like an in-base water tank, so I could just fill up my jars, and then eventually over time I would sort of tunnel that tank into the ocean so that it would constantly keep refilling. And then sometimes I would have an underground port to get a direct line to traders, but by then we're like, this was all like vanilla stuff, so by then like there was no threat in the world, there was no issues, and I was just literally playing the game to play the game. And then I think I ran out of ideas at that point. So I do want to kind of revamp this. We'll survive tonight, because I am very confident on that. I don't perceive this to be any issue. Not exactly. I don't know if that's high or not high, to be fair. It's like I'm seeing demons all the time and friggin' devil man, so it's got to be somewhat reasonable. And I'm pretty sure the maths works out game stage based on like how many things you've killed. Where's the so things you've killed and how many times you've died. There's some sort of maths to how that gets worked out. Obviously this is a one life, so there's been 0 deaths, so that should be the highest number it can be. And where's the loot stage ones over here? So loot stage is 357, and I want to work on those. So yeah, I'm gonna survive. Yeah, I'm gonna survive. No worries on that one. I'll be very surprised if I get my cheeks clapped. But to be fair, this is literally probably the second to last video anyway. So survive this, do a revamp, which I'll probably do off cam, because that's probably going to take a while. That would be like probably 1-2 videos at least, because I kind of want to redo, like, pretty this up, pretty that up, and make it a bit more functional. Do something with the front, kind of sex it up a bit. I don't know if I'm going to touch this, because my module requires a complete revamp of this, which would destroy all the floor, and that's a lot of work. I don't really need to do that just for like a video sense. I'll save that for new series if I rebuild this, etc. Or I will at least build that module. Same with the farming module. I can't wait to do that. That's going to cream my pants. And finalize my sort of parking module, because that still needs a bit of work. And I'm gonna take this sort of modular style. I may make some wings on it. I quite like the idea of having sort of, you know, left and right, you know, helipad there, or whatever. Like maybe even an underground car park, so it's not as high up, so I can sort of park under there, maybe elevator up or a stair up or something, so it's not like just another copy paste of these rooms, because I like it when it's a bit like different. Like I don't want it to be completely uniform, like just one big like snail thing. I quite like how it's progressively different, you know, bigger room, smaller room, corridor, bigger room, corridor. I like that. And that doesn't work as intended. That should be like wedges, but I'm pretty sure that's ramps. Yeah. that should be, because it's too steep for a lot of the cars, so I'll change that to like wedge and wedge tip, which would be much easier to drive up and down. And if I was really inclined, which I'm not, I learned the first time when I did that pyramid thing, but doing 4 for one of these is, it doesn't need to be that much. So I'll probably just do the wedge 60s and I'll call that a day. Make that look good. All of this works, all of that works. I do like that door. I also like another door setup. I'm not a massive fan of the sci-fi stuff. It's got clipping issues. It's not, bugs me. So I got to work on that. But that's all aesthetics of the base. I used to really like this for one of the bases, but they could get through it, the zombies, so I had to kind of put an extra piece on it. I can't remember what I put. Actually, I might be able to. It was a deco. I think it was something like this. I think it was, where I had one where I could like essentially fight through because I could shoot for it, and I think the other 2 were like full ones to stop them from getting in, and every now and again I could kind of peep through and shoot through, and I think it even allowed me to melee through. And I kept the thing, but originally I wanted that to kind of like be back to front and have a double one, or even just a single one, but I wanted to double up to as a redundancy. But the zombies see all that as pretty much a window and just went, ha, that's me. I was like, well, that ain't no good. But I liked it because it was a unique looking bit of building. You know, different patterns, because I've had like the backlit security gates. I do like the security gate. I've had like that style. I've had a couple of styles, balusters. You know, I've had a couple of styles. I even tried, I think, one of these window things before. Unfortunately, they just had no durability, so you could punch them out. I was like, oh, even though you could like put it up to like steel, like they didn't have the hit points. It was like 5 hit points. That was very disappointing. So it's hard to find blocks that you like and that actually work. So you're quite limited on that. It's probably like 5 or 6 that actually work. Which is why these things are pretty much always used. Yeah, so survive this, which will be rolling in soon. Copy shape. Probably don't need that there. Did I get through all of this? Could use electrical parts. Well, no. This would use the electrical parts. I don't know what needs electrical parts. Probably one of these. Yeah. I'm supposed to get more of those. That's all secure. I'll turn all the lights on. Got all the blades. Guns are fully loaded. Right, survive that. Do a revamp off camera. And then come back in. Up the difficulty settings. Hell on earth. Probably set the day to like day 7,000 or something. See what it does to the game stage. Rerun the base with the revamp, because it'd be a good test to see if my revamp completely fucked up my base, and if it falls apart or if it actually works or makes an improvement. Similar concepts for this, just improved and, you know, emboldened, and then just pretty ain't gonna mess the way it works up. So I reckon it'll be an improvement all around. And And then once that's done, I think that's it. Because essentially I was survived this frigging game, and if I survive day 7,000 on Hell on Earth settings, then I'll be like, shit, now what? Obviously the journey to get from day 1 to get to this level stuff while being on Hell on Earth would be a lot harder, you know. It'd take longer, you know. I'll probably get killed or something on the way, because things get stupidly strong. I won't be able to kill as many things, you know. The progression will be slower, because I'll have to be a bit more careful, especially if I do permadeath again, which I probably will. I quite like the threat of that. I don't want to just go in there and get clapped and then just, oh yeah, respawn. You know, I quite like the permadeath idea. And clearly it's not been an issue. You know, I'm alive. Though it might not be this lady again, which can't even really see her, but yeah. I forget what was it, F5? I don't remember. There was a button where I could move the camera around, but I don't remember. Yeah, I might make somebody else, you know. The life of Steve. You know, Dave the Royal Mail delivery guy. Who knows? Yeah, I think that's all I was going to do, because the quest things... I'm going to explore a new map, because I found a different map which is twice the size of this. But it looks like it's got some custom buildings. I'm seeing a lot of, like, more common buildings, I guess. The everyday stuff. This other map's twice the size, and I think there's different POIs. Looks just more like custom shit, which, you know, interests me, but because it's quite large, I'm not too sure how I'm going to run it settings wise, or sort of a nomad early game to get like a proper base, because obviously I want to get base up and running, and I want to do hordes because that's the challenge. But if I survive Hell on Earth 7,000 day, I'm like, well, shit, you know, challenge complete. You know, it's not really going to entice me if I know I can just build this and win. Right, well, okay. You know, the challenge is going to be in getting to that point. So I think the challenge might be in the settings, maybe horde every night, or more increased hordes, or potentially I like the idea of more wandering hordes, as in messing with that setting that increases the maximum zombies on the map, kind of raise that up to allow my computer to actually run, which should hopefully increase the amount of zombies that I just casually see walking about, because I want to just be sitting there and just see like a bunch of zombies. And if I put the wandering hordes up to like max, you know, and put screamers to be quite common, and put her to be crazy, because that will basically be like mini horde night when she goes around. That's the main danger. And I could maybe do like a style like that, because that might be a challenge, especially early game. That's going to be hella hard. But having the base and a horde night that I can easily win is not much of a challenge at that point. Provided I survive, of course. So explore a new map, explore new POIs, potentially have different settings, permadeath always, increase the difficulty, maybe a bit of a nomad-y style early on, and I could maybe fluctuate with hordes and like wandering hordes, but I think that's like, if I was to settle that up now, like a wandering horde's not going to bother me, you know, screamer's not going to bother me, a horde might not even bother me, you know. So it's a lot to play with, and there is the potential of a different mod, but I would not know where to even start with that. I've spent so much time on this one, and I like how this plays. I don't like all the goofy stuff, so I'd have to look to see whatever kind of mods are out there, but you know, some of them are not done very well, and to their credit, this one is done quite nicely. You know, there's a lot to it. Just like all the progression, like I like all of this stuff. Yes, there could be more quests. Quests in general could be better. But that's like vanilla quests, as well as like the custom ones. You know, the amount you have to do, the progression of biomes. I know they don't like to lock it because that's the bullshit of 1.0 or 2.0, wherever it is now. You know, it still needs to be open map where you can go wherever. Obviously, you can't go to Wasteland because you just get killed, but you know, the ability, if you just want to do a day one in the desert, you know, you usually always start in the green areas. Though I remember vanilla back in the day, I used to spawn in the desert areas. But they take that from away. But it would be nice to have like in a Darkness Falls thing where you have to do X amount of quests to kind of get, you know, trade route 2, 3, 4, whatever. And you need to do enough to get reputation in order to even see Razor and Eve and to even get to those quests. It would be nice if part of that journey was you have to complete X amount of quests in said biome, X amount of quests in the next one as you progress, because what you see Razor was it usually in the burnt forest. Where's Razor's over here, so he's the first one you see. Then there's Eve is over in the desert, so do a bunch of quests in the desert, so you have to spend time there. Then you see Anna, do a bunch in there. Maybe even get like another custom quest person, you know, make fucking Bob's inbred cousin, Dave, you know, Trader Dave. And you have to do a bunch in that biome, and then you see Caitlin, you know, who doesn't have quests apparently. Last time I've seen her, but I swear she did. Maybe she only had a couple. Like, give her something, you know, make her a bit more important. Right now she's basically the mastery woman for books. And just kind of have more of a purpose when you go to these biomes, because I've completed so many here because I just wanted to. And then I spammed my way through all of the other quests and basically got to Anna's, had that forever just loaded, ready to go, but didn't do, and then just filled in the blanks myself. Like, I had no reason to do any more quests in here. Like, I'd see her and she'd say, oh yeah, maybe go do, you know, that building, or then she might be like, oh, go travel friggin' miles and miles away to go do something over there. Like, it was very random, and there wasn't many. Like, there was only a couple of quests with them, so like, give them more quests, have an overarching sort of complete 20 quests in the desert as a sort of a requirement to move on up, which would slow the progression down and like make things last a little longer. Because once you get to like this point, when you're me, where all of this stuff hoarding shit up my ass, you know, the game becomes a bit easier. But I'm hoping that will change when I get my butt cheeks clapped in a minute. And then I might actually have to think about, you know, retraining what works. You know, I like the challenge, so if the challenge goes, my drive to play will probably go with it. That's usually what happens. Like, I'll do the challenge, I'll get a base, and if it works, I get day 35, and then I'm bored. The only thing that keeps me going is exploring. Okay, that in there. Yeah. I want to make some changes on. Like, I don't need half of this shit. I was getting worried then. Okay, we're all good to go. Okay, let's lock and load. Put you over there. Pulse arrows. Pulse bolts. Yep. Get a bunch of you. Bunch of you. Bunch of you. We'll get you as well. Get you. And we're gonna get you because you could be crazy. We'll put you over there. And for you, we're gonna go triple up on that. M60 laser. Yeah, so expensive to make. Laser weapon parts. Yeah, I probably want to have a couple of those in case I need to repair it. I don't know how quickly that destroys. Armor shredder. That. Yeah, I normally have a different one, I think, but doesn't matter. That'll do. Lock and load. How are you not done yet? We're going to close that. Just because I don't like it anyway. Let's survive. I need better lights as well. More lights. And a better generator system, which I'm working on something for that. I got an idea. I don't know if it will work, but I got an idea. There used to be like another engine that generator you could make with that, but the Kane guy said he was causing issues where it broke or something, so got rid of it. getting in here? I need to figure that out. Okay, with the build up. Take it in chunks. Should do. Just about every aspect of your build, isn't it? Did somebody else shoot it? That wasn't me. Friendly fire. Got a feeling that's another up on this place. There's a frost maybe. That could have been a misclick. That could have been a misclick. I feel like some of those are clicking and not doing any damage. Trying to get the headshot damage. Bit of a build up there, hold on. Need to deal with the maniacs. Holy shit. That's a bit close to home. Be careful with these. Hello, Mr. Devilman. Finally you showed up. Not much of a... not much of a threat, you, right? Welcome back. Do you have anything else? Oh, hello. All of them. Milk Central. Food on me. Nice. This lady's a bit stronger. Quite a lot. Deal with that guy. Yeah, deal with that guy. just not care about any electricity. That's what it seems like. seem to be rather tense. Green lady. Are you kidding me? Done in by a frigging demo? I thought I could kill him before he blew up. Ugh. Okay. Oh shit. Well then, that answers that question. I died. Okay. I mean, that was more intense than previously. Obviously, I'm back to like level 0, but for video purposes, put this back. Yeah. Get rid of that. You're right. Put that in there. Put that there. Yeah, is it gonna matter now? I made a serious amount of those. Pulse arrow, pulse bolt. Okay. Grab a couple of those while I'm there. Yeah. Problem areas. Let's sort of investigate this a minute. I'm gonna have none of that, so be careful about what I do. Throw in one of these. Yeah, those didn't last very long, as expected. Good amount of loot though. Like, these people are keeping me in the pulse game. I ain't really got to worry about that. I'm even getting a bunch of extra cells, which is good for the M60, but that's already half dead. What's the mod that reduces that? Is it the thermal thing? Reduces the heat and noise generation. No, I need the... Is there not a special one for... Ooh. Is that the one? That's melee weapons. Yeah, and that's doing 50% more. So it's eating that up just with those. Okay. So I'm gonna have to get a couple more of those in the future. So I'm getting plenty of repair stuff, which is nice, but I haven't seen a single M60 yet. but I think that's make only. Did it get through any? I mean, it destroyed a couple of those, and it was, let's say, halfway at most. Yeah, halfway. You survived. You had so many bullets left. You almost died. Yeah. I lost one of you. Well, that'd be a lot of ammo to lose. I had a feeling one of those was not there. They didn't seem like they were doing as much. Yeah, they broke through that, which is how they got through. That probably will blow up from the demo. How are we doing on the front? Halfway. Good bit of chunks here. Yeah, it's like halfway. Floor's fine. Yeah, the floor's fine. Yeah, that was gonna go probably by the end, that one. But they broke through 2 layers there. Because that would have been one of those. And then I had the ramp. So this one. Yeah. So it blew through 2 of those. Floor is good, floor is good. So I need to most likely double up or something on this. But I can't really do that without kind of no. They didn't get up the top, so that's a tiny bit of damage. I think that stops them from kind of like jumping up. Yeah, so what could I do? To increase, because I could expand that and double that up and make 2 layers of that, which would solve the same problem. So like kind of bring that up like further away and have like, instead of, you know, the 2 here, I could do extra 2 and then have that double layers of the stairs come up further, or this go out further, and it just like repeat that before they get to that bit, which will funnel, because the big ones is what soaks up a lot of the like damage and causes issues. You know, firing these, you know, you're getting that choke effect, which is why the demo got in, which is why I freaking died. You know, they're supposed to get trapped back here, so that was a base breakdown on that part. Everything else, just double check some nice loot bags, just because. Oh, we lost. Ooh, we lost stair for the first time in like forever. Yeah, they must have been getting. Yeah, that needs to be doubled up. I've just been basically being cheap down here. Yeah, destroying a bunch of that. But the foundations are all solid. They did attack a bit of this. Ooh, hello. So they were trying. But we're mostly solid. And a lot of those, which is lovely to see because they are expensive and awkward to make, so every Horde Knight is going to replenish. Yeah. Not the best here, but I haven't seen a single laser M60. I do not believe. Do not believe you can loot them. Carbine. I'll double check these, but I'm pretty sure. Would be good for loot. Yeah, I ain't gonna see anything in these. This is all just absolute trash. This crap. Oh yeah. Well, I know I've been cheaping out on that area anyway. Yeah. Yeah, that's what I thought. Not much of anything. Interesting how he destroyed the stairs though. Must just because he got stuck. Yeah, they must have got one stuck down here. So maybe I can, instead of securing that as much, maybe. But either I just double strength it up, because I almost got through it. If I would have double strength those up, it might not have been so bad. And we have redundancies of that and all of that anyway. And that's got more than enough support, even if a whole bunch of those fall. So even though I could take a layer out to let them get through, I like the flow. Yeah, I have not seen an M60 like ever. pretty sure that's make only. Okay. Well, the fact that I died here means probably, you know, if I put the game stage up, it's going to get rid of some of the lesser creatures and probably bring more demons. And the big ones brought out an issue. Obviously, that was more big ones than I've had previously because they managed to get through both layers. Which was a problem, but if I had a lot of focus here, I probably could have prevented a bit of that, but my focus was split dealing with these ladies because I was worried about the roof coming in, which I kind of knew that they were going to be problematic, and I want to revamp all of this anyway. So what I'm going to do now is probably call it here. Then I'm going to off camera, because I basically died, so that was me dying. Off camera, I'm gonna rebuild, update, and revamp this design a little bit. I'm not gonna go crazy and like sex everything up, but I'm just gonna make it more practical based on my new informed bit of knowledge. You know, update this a little bit for more of an intended purpose rather than just, you know, throw it up and see what happens. So now I kind of know what to expect. I'll update the top portions, and you know, I'll just update things and then I'll run it back, and for shits and giggles I think I'll still stick a day 7000 and stick the difficulty up to hell on earth and just see what happens for pure entertainment, and see if I get my cheeks clapped even more. Yeah, okay. And I want to work on the electricity thing, but I can't do that this time around. I'll work on that next time, I think. But we'll see. We'll see. I'll see what I can do. I got an idea or mod or something that I'm looking into, but they're all kind of old and outdated, so I don't know if it's compatible. But I've seen the models in game, so I might be able to kind of get a bigger one, so I don't have to have multiple and clean up the wiring. But yeah, I might not get that far, but I'm going to update the fighting platforms and whatnot and just kind of revamp it a little bit without going crazy, and then redo Horde Night for the final video and see how we get along with that. And then I'll know that if my revamps, if I'm going in the right direction, and if I still get clapped, or it's just stupidly insane, because, you know, Hell on Earth could be mental, and Day 7000 could be mental, so yeah, that'll be the next test. But based on the damage, I'm still quite confident on that, because that was an oversight. So if I can eliminate my worry about that, I can focus more on that, which will prevent them from getting in, and then I got more range to deal with them. I probably should. I don't know if I'll revamp that, but that's just enough distance without getting hurt by the pulse. I would probably do one more in the future reference, because I'm usually having 3 for melee explosive damage anyway. That's what it used to be, I think, for cops. I think I died like here, and the demo was over there, so clearly the demo is way more, which I think he was anyway. I don't know if he was a 5x5 before. He's clearly more, because I think he was like over there, so he's probably more like an 8x8 or something, and he took out quite a lot. So yeah, I would probably want to increase that, and I would want to get rid of that as well, but yeah, I ain't gonna go crazy on the revamp, but just what I need, and and see how we go. So yeah, next time it'll be on, it will probably all look a little bit different. I'll give it a run through before I get the Horde Night, show you the updates, and I'll spend the next day or two working on that, and we'll see how we go. Catch you in the next one.